All right, hey, what's up, guys? Jeff Kamke here with Matt Teuschel from Millennial Wealth Creator. We're in the DR. This is our last night. The rest of the group's doing some breath work, and we're like, screw that. We're going to create some content because we love to do it. So Here we are tonight. I'm going to talk to you guys about some of the things that we see out there in life insurance world around the infinite banking concept. Some of the things that we see that are maybe a little bit off, maybe a little bit concerning, things that just don't quite align maybe with even the true Nelson Nash Institute level of teaching, things that can maybe get you off a little bit or maybe create a different picture in your mind of what is possible with it that may not actually be in reality for you. So we're just going to go through some of the things off the top of our head of what we see out there, maybe from TikTok marketing and just influencers that maybe are a little newer in the business or maybe just don't know the products well enough or the concept deep enough to really know where the boundaries are on what's reality, what's not, what's hype, what's, hopefully none of them are being, intentionally misleading, but it does come across that way at times to where that can happen. So we'll jump in. So I'll turn it over to you and get your thoughts on this.
So I like to give people the benefit of the doubt that they just don't know what they don't know. We all go through that process, right? But if you're going to be talking about major financial decisions in people's lives, you better make sure you know what you're talking about. You don't have to know everything, but because I'm constantly learning stuff, guys. As I implement the infinite banking concept in my own life, I'm continuing to learn. But I didn't start sharing my journey with it until I had a pretty good grasp on how the concept worked. I had learned from a bunch of different mentors. I asked a ton of questions, did a ton of research, started implementing it in my own life, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. This is working in my life. Time to share it. Because here's the thing, and this is what frustrates me about this, Jeff, is that infinite banking is an incredibly powerful financial strategy. And like what I tell people is basically you're learning how to significantly accelerate the wealth building process in your life. And shout out to Nelson Nash for just coming up with this amazing system, man. And that's why it's so frustrating, though, is because it can be a really powerful strategy for the right people, but there's so much awful information out there that, quite frankly, just gives it a really bad name, and it can have devastating financial consequences, guys, if you do not do it correctly, right? And I just see some of this stuff, talking about positive arbitrage and using indexed universal life. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you guys, infinite banking is not done with IUL, unless you want to significantly increase the risk in the wealth building process. And so, I think it's important to call out some of the main things that I've seen and heard influencers talking about with infinite banking. Maybe you can share yours as well. I want to start with the concept of positive arbitrage. I hear this more from like on the IUL side, Index Universal Life, than whole life. However, I do hear some whole life influencers as well talking about how you can get this positive arbitrage in your policy where you're earning a 6% dividend, but you're only paying a 5% policy loan. Guys, that's not happening, okay? Or it's very rare. I'm not going to say it can never happen, depending also if you have non-recognition or direct recognition, whatever. We're not going to get into that. But here's the thing. First off, I want to clear up let's talk about the numbers. The 6% dividends, that is a gross number. That does not mean your policy is going to grow by 6% every single year. That is a gross number. Typically, an infinite banking policy, structured correctly, will have an internal rate of return right around 3 to 5%, depending on the company, depending on how you design it, etc. Okay? For me, that's a really good savings account. I'm okay with that because I know I'm going to use my policy to build a lot more wealth than that, which leads me to my next point about this. We don't set the policies up for positive arbitrage. We don't set them up for the internal rate of return. We're not trying to get positive arbitrage in the policy. We're not trying to earn 6 in the policy and only pay a 5% interest on our policy loan. We're not trying to do that. That's not why we set these policies up. Here's where positive arbitrage comes into play with infinite banking. It's what you do with your policy. How are you using it to build wealth? I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. I'm about to close on my first real estate loan is almost done start to finish. It's taken about 3 months. The sale is pending, so I'm about to get paid back with interest, the points, all that is awesome, okay? So here's what I did. I set up my policies first, okay? And then I borrowed against my policy. My policy loan rate is 5.5%. I lent it out at 12% plus points. Now I'm creating positive arbitrage exactly the way that banks do when they pay us 1% or whatever for our checking, savings account, whatever, and then they lend it out at 4 to 5%. They're creating positive arbitrage. They're using other people's money to create massive rates of return in that scenario. That is how you get positive arbitrage, guys. It is not in an IUL policy, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail why you don't want to use an IUL for infinite banking. But we're not setting these policies up to try to earn 6 in it and only pay 5. That is the completely wrong mentality around infinite banking, and if that's what you're trying to do, you're going to be very disappointed. So,
yeah, totally agree on that. I think there's enough influencers out there that do kind of go down that road, and it's just I know some of the math that they present, and it can be done like if you use it to buy a car, and my account has grown by this much, and here's how much I paid for the car plus interest, and then the interest loan charges, like depending on if it's a rising interest rate environment or a falling interest rate environment, like it can put you in a positive, but we're not trying to make money on the buy, which is a slogan you'll see out there in the infinite banking world, is I'm profiting by buying stuff.
Right.
Because of this internal arbitrage inside of my whole life policy. It can exist, but that's not the forefront of what you're trying to do.
I'm going to say something on that really quick.
Totally, go ahead.
You're not going to build wealth by buying depreciating assets.
Right, yes.
I can't stress that enough.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't mean you can't use your policy to buy a vehicle. I use my policy to buy a vehicle,
right.
But I also funded it in a very specific way so I could do both. Right. There are benefits to making large capital purchases. We'll talk about that later, but I wanted to make that point.
That's a great point.
Because I see that too, where people are talking about, get rich buying cars and going on vacation. Guys, that is not part of the wealth building process. Like, just because you're recapturing the dollars and you're getting that uninterrupted compound growth, whatever, there's a massive lost opportunity cost by not using your policy to acquire income producing assets and actually build wealth. Massive lost opportunity cost. So yeah, that's a great point bringing that up.
Yeah, and that's a great, excellent add-on point, because that's a big difference in, like, if you read Robert Kiyosaki, you listen to Grant Cardone, you talk to these guys that are actually really, really wealthy, they didn't get that way by buying stuff.
Right.
They got
buying
that
depreciating
way
assets
by doing exactly as you did with your policy. You bought something that goes up in value, that's cash flowing. That's what real estate is, depending on how you're using it. If you're doing your own real estate where you're acquiring an apartment complex or even just a single family home, you're getting the appreciation of the real estate going up in value, and you're getting cash flow from that. You're not doing that specific model, you're just getting it for the appreciation over a period of time.
It's still building wealth though. I'm earning more than I'm lending on an asset.
Yeah, and you're still getting that, so there's not the extra cash flow for you, but that's not the game you're playing. There's many ways to play the real estate game,
Correct.
And so, but by doing the car thing, there is, legitimacy to doing the car only with an infinite bank policy, because you get benefits by doing that, but that's not going to move the needle to build you wealth. It can save you money. It can be more efficient to do that way.
Right.
But that's not a wealth building thing. You need to use it in your business to do outside investing, and that investing should be in alignment with who you are.
Yep.
Whether it's real estate, whether it's other people's businesses. And gosh darn it, we say this a lot in the videos that we do together and independently. It's investing in yourself, gosh darn it.
Yeah.
I'm investing in
100%.
myself right now in this very moment by being in the Dominican Republic at the Life 180 Mastermind, meeting people, building relationships, being in the room. You hear this a lot from super wealthy people. You're in the right room with movers and shakers of the right, energy, the right consciousness, with the right, network, with the right maybe access to capital. Like when you are in the right room, that can massively change things for you. And I think back to a couple weeks ago, I might have said this in another video we did, was a screenshot of my Facebook memories of a Garrett Gunderson clip from his book, one of his books, I think it was The 5-Day Weekend, that said you're one relationship or one opportunity away from your next level of prosperity.
Absolutely.
And that can be
100%.
the difference. So it can mean using a whole life policy with cash value, using the infinite banking concept where you're taking that, getting a loan against it, and you're going and putting yourself in the room with movers and shakers. You're doing a high-level mastermind or something, and just by being there for a weekend or for a week, you come home and have new referrals, new business opportunities. Who knows what can come from that?
Yep.
Great things can be stimulated from an opportunity like that. Man, I got the bugs tearing up my feet.
Yeah, it's because we're right by the light.
Yeah.
It's attracting them in our
Yep.
direction.
That must taste good.
That's the DR for you.
Yep.
Content in the DR.
Yep, you know it. So that's something that, can move the needle big time for you. That's not investing in, Caterpillar and Microsoft and all these companies that are outside of your control, outside of your knowledge. You don't know really what's going on. You don't know the board of directors. You don't know the decisions. Is all that in alignment with you? It might not be. So that's a great way to do that and leverage the value of your policy to really actually truly build wealth.
Yeah.
Not by going on vacation, not by buying your groceries, not by doing all this kind of low-hanging fruit stuff that you're just trying to, I feel like it's almost trying to force building wealth when it's not really there to be had by doing it that way. Can it be done? Yes. Are you really getting ahead? No, you're probably setting yourself up for more problems.
I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to develop myself. I'm going to put my financial future in a financial product.
There you go.
Like this financial product is going to solve all of my problems.
Yep.
And while the financial product we're talking about is custom designed, dividend paying whole life insurance, it can be a fantastic financial product. It's not going to solve all of your problems if you do not use it correctly. And I think so. You said something great that I want to touch on really quick about investing in yourself and also doing things that are in alignment with you. Okay, so we're talking about different ways to invest in real estate. So what's in alignment with me right now is real estate lending. I don't want to do the fix and flips and all that, managing contractors, at least not right now, maybe sometime in the future. But again, as I was doing my research into, okay, so I have this capital, all right, I've capitalized my banking system with my policies. How do I want to implement that? I know I want to do real estate. Real estate has made more millionaires than any other asset class in the world, guys, bar none, okay? So I want to get involved in that. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Which one's going to make sense for you? For me, it was real estate lending because it's very passive. What it allows me to do is put my money to work while I continue to grow my business. All right, because imagine if I'm sitting here trying to build, grow my YouTube channel, doing all this content, and then over here I'm trying to manage a massive real estate deal. Like, how much time does that take away from my business, right? So that's why it didn't align with me. And I would also argue, though, that it created more cash flow than a traditional rental property. Here's why. Because my deal only took, and this is going to vary, but when you're charging 12% interest plus points, when that gets paid back, and you look at the average monthly cash flow that would have generated, you take your net profit after the interest costs on the policy loan, you take your net profit there, how many months did the deal take? Okay, well, it took 3 months. I earned $3,000 net in interest. I just created $1,000 of cash flow, and all I did was fund the deal. How many single family rental properties you have to own to create a net $1,000 in cash flow every single month?
That's a good point.
3, 4 maybe? I mean, it depends on what you do, like how you buy it and stuff like that.
Sure.
But my point with that is using your policy to build wealth that's in alignment with you. Right? We were having this conversation the other day about the 401k situation and stuff like that. And people are, again, relying on a financial product to solve all of their problems. And while these financial products can help, we put too much reliance and dependency on these products to fix our problems without actually investing back in ourselves, understanding how do I want to build wealth? What resonates with me? What is going to what's going to move the needle in my life? Is it going to be, maybe I use my policies to go to these events like you talked about? Like, that's another thing. When you use your policy and you're investing in yourself and your business and different opportunities, you might not even see a rate of return immediately. Right. That rate of return might show up later on down the road as you build the relationships and strategic partnerships and stuff like that. It's not buying groceries and depreciating assets. That is not how you do infinite banking, man. It's just so frustrating.
Yep, I'm with you all the way. So I think another thing that always comes to mind, I see so much of it, it's so pervasive on Facebook. I'm primarily on Facebook these days. All the ads running for IULs, and a good percentage of them are in some shape or form talking about the infinite banking concept with index universal life
Becoming your own bank.
Becoming your own bank. And so there was a book written, I don't remember when Garrett came out with that, maybe about 10 years ago, What Would the Rockefellers Do? I don't remember exactly how old that book is now. It's probably close to 10 years by now. He just recently rewrote it because our agency owner and mentor, Kurt Patrick, here at Life 180, he's built a relationship the last couple years with Garrett, and Chris has been educating Garrett that your book that you wrote 10 years ago is a classic. It's a profound book in our space, but the index universal life agents are taking that book and skewing it
Yep.
out of what it was intended to be and out of its true original form into something to sell IUL.
Right.
And so Garrett has rewrote the book with huge disclaimers and warnings against using this book for indexed universal life. It is strictly for whole life insurance, cash value, dividend paying whole life insurance.
Correct.
Because that's what has been used down through history by some of the wealthiest families to perpetuate wealth on an ongoing basis.
Correct.
The Rockefellers are not using an indexed universal life policy that started in 1997.
Nope.
They're not
Not a
doing that.
chance.
It's so new of a product. We don't even have a case history of truly knowing what that product would do for somebody
Right.
from the moment they would buy it all the way through retirement.
Right.
And I've asked that to some of these promoters of indexed universal life that promote it with the infinite banking concept of, can you show me some cases, can you provide me 5 illustrations of your clients that have successfully used this in retirement? And I'm setting them up because I know probably what they're going to say back, and most of them do say that, it hasn't been around long enough, I can't do that. And I say, yes, and that's exactly the point.
Exactly, yeah.
Because it's not proven yet. We
Yeah.
know what whole life has been doing. It's been around for 140 years with a lot of the carriers that we use. It's been around even longer than that. There's things that date back to, it's all pre-Civil War, pre-World War I. I mean, it's been around a very, very long time. I think the very first whole lives were, derivatives of them were actually in the late 1700s, if I remember right, from way, way back. So we know that it's stood the test of time. It's gone through 3 different variations of the U.S. dollar.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone through, as I mentioned, the Great Depression, the World Wars, the Civil War. It has stood the test of time, and it's been profitable all through that. You don't find life insurance companies that have gone under like the banks did in 2008 because
Right.
they know how to make money for the long term. They're thinking, and I didn't get to it this year because it was just before the event I'm at right now, but the 2 years prior, I have gone to the One America Symposium and heard from the leadership and the CEO of the company and their finance department. They get up on stage and educate on their methodologies on what they do to be profitable. They're thinking about my grandkids,
Right.
and making sure that my grandkids' policies, I don't even have grandkids yet, I'm only 38, I don't have grandkids, but that's their viewpoint of how am I going to be profitable with these products and this company for 100 years from now.
Right.
That's their mindset.
And you know what else? To add to that, they're
Mhm.
probably thinking about their grandchildren as well.
Oh, totally.
Because again, a lot of the times they have their own policies with the company.
Right.
They're part of the board of directors, right? And with a mutually owned life insurance company, you're a part owner
Right.
in that company. So
Yep.
if you're running that company, I mean, I can't speak for them. I don't know 100% if they have their own policies with One America or whatever.
Mhm.
I imagine they probably do though, right?
Oh,
So they're thinking about their grandkids as well.
Right.
That's the beautiful part about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a couple of them that are old enough, like the CEO, Scott, I think is his name, and Dennis Martin. Maybe it's Dennis Martin's the CEO. I can't remember which one's which, but some of the higher ups of the company. I mean, they're older gentlemen. They're in their 60s and maybe even close to 70 by now. So definitely, they might even have great grandchildren on the
Yep.
horizon. So they definitely have a long-term vision. So it's about the stability of the product. That if you want to be doing the infinite banking concept, you don't want unnecessary risk added
Yes.
into that.
Correct.
And that's what Indexed Universal Life does, is influxes unnecessary risk that can put the whole concept in danger. Because if you are using the loan strategy within infinite banking policy and you're kind of maxing that out, you're doing that with an Indexed Universal Life, and you have a down year or two in the market.
Yeah.
And I always say, if you talk to an advisor 10 years ago or 15 years ago, hey, do you see the longest bull run ever in history coming? No advisor would say, yes, I do. Well, that's what we've just been through, and we're still in. I think we just had new highs this week in the market. So we're on this perpetually growing economy. At least it looks like that. Everything's just great. The markets are up. Everybody's making money. We were just talking about, did a video the other day that kind of got cut short about an article where all these more people are becoming 401k millionaires because the market's going up and everything's just great, guys.
Yeah.
Well, what happens if we turn the corner here, maybe after this election cycle or some of the wars around the world?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if we don't think it's going to happen? But what happens if we have 3 out of 4 years that are down, or 3 out of 5 years that are down, and you have an indexed universal life policy, and in that, if it wasn't structured optimally, and even if it was, it's in danger, but we find most indexed universal life products aren't even structured properly. They're not max funded. They're usually target funded or even minimally funded.
I've never seen one
Right.
designed properly or funded properly.
Right.
I've never seen one.
So if you have an IUL, and we got into some wonky market scenario here where we just think it's going to go up, and it actually turns around, and oh my gosh, we had 3 out of 5 years where it was negative, and we got 0% credit towards the cash value portion of our IUL. but our rising cost of insurance internally in the policy, we could be in jeopardy of losing that policy, lapsing that policy. But if you've got outstanding policy loans, that adds a whole other layer of complexity into it, because whatever happens if that lapsed, then you would owe taxes on all that. That's a huge problem.
That's a disaster.
Is not going to be the infinite banking thing. It's not going to be building wealth for you generationally. It's not what the Rockefellers are doing. So that's probably the biggest one that, when we were talking about doing this video, that came to my mind, because I see it almost daily on Facebook ads for these IULs promoting that wonderful vehicle that's a game changer, because it's what the wealthy use, and it's just not. It's taking things out of context and skewing the truth. And so that's mine. I know there's a lot more you can add on the IUL side. So
Let's have some fun with IUL. So here's the thing, guys. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
There you go.
Just because I can walk across the street without looking both ways doesn't mean I should. Just because I can drive my car 140 miles an hour in a 35 doesn't mean I should. Okay? You can try to implement infinite banking with an IUL. Doesn't mean you should. And if you do, good luck to you. I truly wish you the best. But you are really rolling the dice. There's a couple of reasons why. You kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but first, I do want to point out like just my observation of the content that I've seen from IUL agents. I have personally seen the videos where they take even Garrett Gunderson's videos on his YouTube channel. They cut out a very small sliver, a small portion that's talking about how the Rockefellers use life insurance to build wealth or whatever family it was. I think it was Rockefeller. That's who we wrote the book on. I've also seen videos of Mr. Burr. They clip out certain videos and talk about using life insurance, the cash value to build wealth. See, these other people are talking about it, and these life insurance companies have been around for hundreds of years or whatever. None of that matters when it comes to IUL. You know why? Because you're a profit center with the IUL, not a partner. Okay, with a mutually owned participating whole life policy, you're a partner in the company. With IUL, it's complete opposite. Okay, so even if the company has been around and has all this a long time and has this really strong financial strength and stability, and it consistently manages risk and stuff, you don't participate in that. Right. It doesn't matter. What matters for you is the stock market, and actually not even just the stock market, the cost of call options, the call options budget. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably should do some more research before you buy an IUL, because the performance of the IUL has far little to do with the actual performance of the market it's attached to than people think. Because it's a call option strategy, guys, you're not actually invested in the market, so you don't get dividends, you're not participating in the full upside, okay? And the sell is that you get the downside protection, but is that worth it? Look, I don't want to go down too far of a rabbit hole about how IUL works, but let me bring it full circle when it comes to infinite banking, okay? So first off, you do need to know those things if you're going to be buying an IUL, because you have to manage it like a hawk, guys. And some of the risk involved with IUL doing the infinite banking is, you alluded to it already, if you have 1 or 2 down years in a row and you really shouldn't be maxing out a policy loan anyways, even with the whole life policy, I don't recommend that. But let's say you have a pretty large loan, a policy loan against your IUL for a real estate deal. Maybe you're trying to implement infinite banking the way it's designed to be done. But if you have that 0 year, okay, where you don't get any interest credit whatsoever, that means the cash value in your policy goes backwards, because you have cost of insurance, you have other fees, whatever it might be. And then on top of that, you have the policy loan interest that is due. Now, I can already see the comments from IUL agents say, well, yeah, you can just do a wash loan. But that, again, defeats the purpose of infinite banking, because you're supposed to be able to borrow against a policy and not interrupt the compound growth of the cash value. When you take a wash loan in IUL, what do you think you're doing? All the money you just borrowed is no longer participating in the upside of the market. So let's say you hit your 10% cap, which is just a gross number, but even if you hit that, if you took a wash loan, all the money you took in the wash loan is not participating in the upside. So you can't do wash loans with an IUL. It has to be an indexed loan or participating loan, whatever, right? But the problem is, if you have a 0 year, your cash value goes backwards, plus you have the interest. So if you have a $100,000 policy loan, with 5% interest, that's an extra $5,000 that comes out of your cash value, or the way you could put it is another $5,000 out of the profitability of your real estate transaction. So all you're doing is injecting more risk for potentially a little bit more reward. That is not, you're not being compensated enough to take on the extra risk. And we're not even talking about potentially lapsing the policy. That goes back to like not over leveraging it. I don't think you would necessarily lapse the policy unless you definitely could. That's kind of the worst case scenario. I'm not going to say it's not possible, but either way, you're injecting so much more risk into the process for a very, very small potential extra reward that hasn't even been proven. Like you said, Jeff, I think it's been around since 1997. There is, I can assure you, the Rockefeller, I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth, but the Rockefellers are probably not putting a significant amount of money into IUL. No, there's been no proof that IUL works the way that people are selling it, like becoming your own bank and passing on generational wealth. Nobody's actually done it with IUL. The only way IUL sells is smoke and mirrors, illustrations, and fabricating the content that other people who are doing it correctly, like Garrett Gunderson, fabricating the information that they put out to create their own narrative to sell their own products. IUL. Yeah. It's very, very dangerous.
Yep, totally dangerous. I know we could talk endlessly about IUL. I wanted to bring up another thing that I see that's actually more on the agent side with using the whole life strategy around infinite banking is getting people started too soon or putting too much money into a policy before they have a financial foundation.
Great point.
We were talking about this earlier before we were creating some content. I have a client that I took on earlier in the summer that she's had a policy for about 7 years, about a little bit longer than I've had mine. And she had her husband passed away, and there was a big, large lump sum from that, 6 figures. And the agent that she worked with, I think maybe took advantage of that a little bit and said, hey, let's do a huge, what we call a front load, where you're putting a lot of extra money in just the very first year.
Which normally you do want to do.
That's the best form to do in infinite banking.
Best way to do it.
Best format for it, absolutely. So it's good in that respect, but the problem is now all these years later, she was doing well in her business at the time when she set the policy up, but through COVID, her business declined, and she's had the last 2 or 3 years, she's had a really hard time coming up with the monthly or the annual premium to keep the policy going, plus the overfunding into the cash value. She's had to actually use policy loans to make her payment.
Oh man, that's
and to
not
keep
good.
it going. And so I see that a lot where it's almost like they're forcing something that's not ready to be had yet.
Sure.
And I don't know if it's greed on the agent side. I know I've talked to some agents that they think that it's best to get people going with it and start because, the best time to start is now. And,
not always.
And so we come from the training of let's create a foundation first. Let's make sure you've got your savings in order. This is where we do agree with Dave Ramsey. Let's make sure you've got savings. Let's make sure you've got several months of living expenses set aside.
Prove to yourself that you can be good with money.
Yes.
Prove to yourself that you can actually save.
Yep, because this is something, full transparency, this is something I struggle with even with our policy, and the stuff that we've had going on over the years ever since our accident, repairing credit and stuff. Like, I haven't used my policy to perfection, absolutely. There's been times where we've done the exact same thing because we had our policy written by the same organization that I'm talking about this other client because we started too prematurely. Now, we've made it work. I'm glad we did. I'm not obviously going to cancel my policy because the death benefit's there, and I'm glad I've got the potential of everything in the future. I've locked in my insurability, so it's fine, but in an ideal scenario, I was probably a little premature. I needed to get a little bit better with our own cash flow, paying off maybe a couple more debts, having a little bit more put away.
Right.
And so that's something that I see because it's my firsthand experience where it's just not an ideal scenario. We would much rather do as Dave says, have money put away, get good with money, make sure that you're paying yourself first every month.
Yep.
And you've got a surplus of money every month. Maybe it's, and we've done content on this, maybe it's increasing your income in whatever ways that makes sense. I'm not going to go into that because we've talked about it at length in other videos. But those are strategies that you might need to do before you even execute an infinite banking policy.
Right.
We've turned down numerous people that are like, I love what you're doing, Jeff. How can I get started? And it's like, you're not ready yet.
Yep.
You don't make enough money, you don't have the discipline, you have too much debt, which shows me you're not ready yet.
Right.
It's just like I've got a 9-year-old son, and I tell him sometimes, buddy, you want to do X, Y, Z, and you've got to prove to me that you're responsible enough for, a go-kart or a little mini motorcycle or something. Like, you have not proven to me that you're that way. And that's the same thing that it is with when we work with clients is when we do an x-ray and we look at a client's finances on the front end and we get to know them, we ask some very key targeted questions to see where they're at mentally and where they're at with their finances to know. A question that I'll ask is, does your savings grow every single month? Well, no. Okay, then you're not ready for the check. That tells me you're not in the habit of putting money away every single month where your savings is growing by $500 a month or $1,000 every month. And I get that there's the times where stuff happens, you got to take it out. But overall, is that the pattern where you're constantly saving additional money? Those things need to be in place. Not only the savings, but the disciplines and the habits have to be there for you to be successful with the infinite banking concept. And that unfortunately is the case. And I hope that that's not too pervasive out there, but I've seen it in a handful of times where, it's a problem, and it puts people in strain financially, which is the opposite of what the infinite banking concept is supposed to do.
Correct.
Which is deliver more freedom, more cash flow, generation of wealth, build wealth, do all this stuff that's an expansive nature. But then if it's done prematurely, it's a constricting. It adds stress, it adds unnecessary financial burden that just is irresponsible, I feel like, and very unethical for anybody that's doing that with the infinite banking concept.
Oh man, I think that's probably the most important point that we're going to talk about is whether or not you're actually ready for the infinite banking concept, because a lot of people are not. And because with infinite banking, you have to capitalize the policy enough. I like to say capitalize your banking system enough in order to actually implement the concept itself. And I see, oh my gosh, it's so frustrating, where I see those ads and I see the YouTube content where, $200 a month will turn you into a millionaire by the time you're 67 or whatever. It is the most misleading pile of crap I've ever seen. It is so disgusting because you have no idea what the person's situation is. You have no idea that this product is actually going to do that. It's all based on smoke and mirrors, all based on this like really fancy illustration that you put together. And here's the thing: is $100 or $200 a month into really any type of financial product, is that really going to move the needle in your life? It's not enough to get the full benefit of whatever it is. We talked about this the other night about the 401k and the 401k millionaires. A lot of those people, a lot of those 401k millionaires are very likely to be like they reached that status because they were able to put more money into the 401k versus somebody that's only doing a couple $100 a month, right? The amount of contributions that you're able to make into whatever financial product it is going to have a significant impact on what that eventually does for you. So if you're not able to consistently save money and you're only able to save a couple $100 a month, what I tell people is you're going to get so much more benefit reinvesting that money back into yourself. Learn the skill sets on how to increase your income, learn how to double your income in the next 12 months, and then come talk to me. Then we're ready. Because Jeff, that's exactly how I did it. And the reason I do this content, the reason I started my channel is just sharing my journey about what's working for me. And what I focused on first was income, man. I wanted to fix the income problem. And my business finally took off, and then I started saving money. I proved to myself that I could save. And so I was sitting on a decent amount of savings. Now I'm in a position of financial strength and power where I can start to dictate how I put that money to work. And here's the thing, I'm not dependent on any one financial product to solve my problems, right? Because I am the biggest asset in my life. I know that I can bring the income in. I can save on a consistent basis. So if that's the case, if I've proven that to myself, okay, now the question is, what's the best way to do that? What's the best way to save money, to store large amounts of capital? It just happens to be this infinite banking concept. And so I took that money, I capitalized my banking system to the point where I can actually use it to build wealth and eliminate lost opportunity costs, make large capital purchases, invest back into my business, have an emergency fund. But if you're only doing a couple $100 a month, what is that really going to do for you? And of course, there's the option of, you could start with a convertible term policy. I do recommend that sometimes because it's cheap and it gives you the death benefit coverage for your family. and you can always convert that into a whole life policy later on after you've learned to double your income.
There you go.
And guys, you don't even have to invest the $200 into yourself. Go on YouTube. Where do you think I learned most of my stuff? Even about the infinite banking concept. YouTube is the biggest college university in the world, and it's free. All right, you can learn anything that you want on YouTube. I tell people too to take the skills they already have, turn that into a business. Start your own YouTube channel, sharing your own journey about whatever it is that you're going through. If it's fixing your finances, getting out of debt, if it's making bread, that's a new hobby that I have. I just made my first batch of bread. It's so cool, man. It's so much fun, and I learned it on YouTube. And the reason I bring that up is I'm watching these people, like just teaching. Like I'm watching all these videos teaching other people that are brand new, interested in doing this particular hobby, and they have tens of thousands of subscribers and views. They're making a ton of money, and all they did was turn on the camera and share their everyday life, what they're passionate about. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just trying to get the ideas flowing, the creativity flowing about what you can do to increase the income. Once you do that, once you can prove to yourself, like you said, Jeff, to say that you can save money, infinite banking can absolutely be a very good fit for you, but not until then, right? You're like the $100 to $200 a month, guys. It's not going to move the needle.
Yep, I love what you're saying, because I've always resonated with people that are willing to call out what needs to be said and say the harsh truth, tough love. You know, as you might say, if you've got kids and even friends, sometimes it's got to take that, because it really comes from a place of empowerment. This whole thing is about empowering you financially, and doing things prematurely. Doing things with Index Universal Life, it's putting you in a disempowered state.
Right.
And so our message is, if you're struggling, you have the power to make a change. You have the power to do just what he outlined. Get on YouTube, hit record while you're doing stuff. Do things you're passionate about. Like my son's talked about, how can Dad, I love Legos. How can I create a channel with that? We talked about with him, he wants to get a 3D printer, and he's not quite ready for that yet. We talked about that. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, the responsibility that needs to prove.
Right.
But we were researching them earlier this summer, and there's a lot of people that they make a lot of money with 3D printing. There was one gentleman that had a mailbox, and the flag came off his mailbox, and he couldn't find a replacement for it. And he didn't want to go buy a whole new mailbox, so he 3D printed the red flag that you put up when you have mail in your mailbox.
Cool.
Well, he put that out on some social media site or something. He sold like 1,100 red flags, because apparently it's this niche market where people are like, yes, my flag's broken too, gosh darn it, and I need a new one. And so, not that he's become a millionaire selling, red flags, but it's taking advantage of an opportunity, taking advantage of a situation that you're in, whether it's just things that are passionate, things that are on your heart, but doing things in a way where you're thinking differently, putting yourself in a position to change your life and be empowered, so that you can then go to the next stage and implement some of these bigger strategies that we're outlining here with the infinite banking concept. They can really take things to a much larger scale, a much bigger level. That can really change your life, really change your kids' and grandkids' lives. It can be used in a business scenario as well as key man. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do creatively even inside of a business for that, if that is applied to you. But really, our message is wanting to empower you. And if you're not ready for it, we want to give you a good, loving smack in the butt and a little smack across the face. And like, hey, get it in gear, because we know you have it inside of you. I know when I've been down in the dumps, and I guess a good friend like him or other people, they're like, dude, you got it. You got what it takes, man. Like, pick yourself up, get going. Like, this might be the message you need to hear. Like, you got what it takes to do this, to turn the corner. If you're not ready for it yet, you can get there and probably surprise yourself on how quickly you can do that with a little coaching from us or anybody else. Just, hey, you know what? Yes, this is a great concept. I might not be ready for it. I can take a couple steps, take a little bit of time, get myself in line for it, and then I can really employ that in my life and really start doing the things that are on my heart to do and serve more people. I think it was discussed this week down here at our mastermind. Maybe it was somewhere else, but basically the idea that if you're not living in your true, authentic power and doing the things that you're meant to do here, there are people that are hurt by that because you're not reaching those people. Those people
100%,
need you to do what you're called to do, and there are people that are suffering needlessly because you haven't stepped into it. I'm saying this as much for anybody that's listening to this as I am for myself, because I need this reminder all the time to get out of my own way, get out of my own head, and put other people first. That was definitely a message that we're hearing on Saturday from Sir Kaya. He's a NLP practitioner, and he does sales like psychology and really helping you understand the sales environment, how to help people from a place of authenticity and ethics and morality, and do so in a way that's going to help them find that thing that helps them come alive to serve other people. And so
I want to share a real quick example on that because it just happened tonight. The ripple effect of the impact that you have on somebody's life by simply making the decision to share your passion with the world, your skills, your knowledge. And then I want to give an example of doing that outside of this one really quick, but I just received a text message tonight from one of my marketing students that I think he's been a student for maybe a year and a half, give or take. And maybe he would have done this without me, maybe not, okay? But he just sold his very first marketing course for $1,000. Following, of course he's doing his own stuff, but he went through a lot of my programs. He's watched tons of YouTube videos that I put out on my marketing channel. That's how he originally found me. He's got a good job in marketing right now. He's starting to get his own clients. I'm even building the school, helping him with the school community that we're growing and building. So one of the members in that school community purchased his course for the first time for $997. And his course is phenomenal. And you know what it's about? It's about how to build a marketing agency specifically for real estate agents and real estate investors. He's at the level now where he is starting to share his experience and success with people, and there's value to that, guys. I can't tell you how much potential you are leaving on the table by listening to that voice in your head every single day that I'm not special. I don't have anything to share with the world. Who am I to start a podcast or a YouTube channel or blog post? And nobody's going to care that I know how to play guitar, or that I like to make my own bread, or I like to play with Legos. Right. It's all in your head, guys, because there's a market for just about anything. And another recent example is I have my lady, we just started a Facebook page. We're going to create more pages, but here's a great example, guys. She regularly takes pictures and videos of all the animals that she has throughout the house. It's the cutest stuff you've ever seen in your life. But she doesn't do anything with it. She just takes it, takes the videos, whatever. She'll post it on her personal profile and stuff. She gets tons of engagement. Everybody just absolutely loves it. And I said, Beth, I mean, you realize you're sitting on a gold mine right now, right? Because who doesn't like to see the most adorable rabbit running around the house playing with the pit bull or the rats? And just so you know, all the animals get along really well. It's an amazing tribe. So don't say, oh, it's a pit bull around a rabbit. You're not supposed to do that. Anyway, it's just the cutest stuff in the world. And channels like that get millions and millions of views because it's fun to watch. It's entertainment. And when you can attract attention like that, you have the potential for a massive business. Like, you can monetize that in so many different ways that you're just, I know it's hard to sometimes see yourself at that level when you're down here. I've been there, guys. Okay, I get it. But you got to start somewhere, something. Maybe it's not video. I don't know. You got to figure out what works for you. But the opportunity is there. You have something special in you that you are really good at, that you are better than others at, that you could share with the world. And that one decision could completely change your life. You know how I know? Because I did it. Yep. When I started my marketing channel, I didn't imagine I'd be where I'm at. I did it. I was passionate about it. This is fun. This is interesting. I'm just going to share my results, share what I'm doing to get those results, and now it's a business. And now I'm able to come here to the Dominican Republic, meet amazing people like you, build awesome friendships and relationships with people. I've got this amazing view behind the camera right now. It's like that one decision changed everything, man. Yep. It's crazy.
And even our agency owner, I mean, he, Chris Kirkpatrick with Lake 180, if you guys, seen any of his content in the same space that we talk about, but, he's been doing a YouTube channel for 8 years? And the first several years, he got no traction. And then now he's leading this. He's down here in the Dominican. He's got an eco hotel. It's an investment property. He's got, tons of investment money coming in from different people. And he runs an insurance agency that's, going to be the gold standard in the industry. And that's all because he took action and stayed consistent. And those are, a couple of things that get overlooked so much. We always are looking for the secrets and, the shortcuts and stuff. And a lot of times it's just doing the right things long enough consistently and seeing the fruits of your labor pay off. We were coming back from the zip line the other day, and I don't remember if we were walking together, but whoever I was walking together with, they were pointing out the bamboo. I think it was Victor actually. It was pointing out the bamboo, and then I think you were saying something about, was it you that was saying something
the
about
Chinese bamboo tree story?
Yep, you got to water the Chinese bamboo tree, for many years, I think it is, straight.
It's a long time.
And then in like the 7th year, I think it is, in a period of like 90 days, it shoots up like 20 feet or something crazy. But it took doing all the watering, all the fertilizing, all those 7 years in order for that bamboo to pop up at the rate that it does. So it's all the prehistory. And I've seen this in network marketing. I've seen this in a lot of places where maybe you'll see somebody on stage. It's like, I joined this, I joined Herbalife. I joined, Young Living Essential Oils. I've never been in the business before. And man, in like 30 days, man, I went straight to platinum or whatever this certain rank is. And then you learn about their backstory. They've been a realtor for 20 years. Or there's usually, I don't think I've met anybody that I've known personally in network marketing that has not been watering and fertilizing a tree without it growing for a number of years. And then finally, it looks like it was an overnight success when in fact it was because they did the right things long enough consistently for months or years straight that catalyzed into something. So
100%.
It's there for you. You just have to find it and do it. And then the infinite banking concept is a phenomenal principle and strategy of how you can look at and handle your money, to do things in your business, do things in your life that can grow wealth, add freedom, add control, add certainty to your life, and help you execute your purpose into the world, help your kids do theirs. I think that's a big key if you've got children. I think one of our big roles as parents is to make sure that our children are able to discover and then execute their purpose into the world. And financial stability is a big catalyst in allowing them to do that. If it's the difference between public school and private school, what's the difference? Well, it's finances. Putting them in different environments, giving them different opportunities. A lot of times it's finances that's the deal breaker between can I do this or can I not? And if you've got an abundance of money to do those kind of things, you can empower your children. So, any last words?
Yeah, I was checking the camera there. We're almost out of time there. We actually got cut off last time. Final words is kind of what I say on a lot of my videos is just like I'm just such a big advocate of doing your own research on this stuff. Like if you are looking at this stuff, IULs and infinite banking, do your research, guys. We have plenty of content on it. And like we always say, don't take our word for what we're talking about with infinite banking and IULs. Do your own research. All right, get your questions answered. Ask really good questions, and then I do think the biggest takeaway from this is to focus on yourself. Like you need to realize that you are your greatest asset in this life, and you need to take that seriously. And once you do, your life can change for the better, like you never imagined. And then you can, and then implementing something like infinite banking just becomes a no-brainer and easy, right? Because you know who you are, you know what you stand for, you know what your goals are, your beliefs, principles, values, etc. You know that you can create income, right? You can save good money on a consistent basis, and then you're ready for the next step. Don't put the cart before the horse, guys. Okay? Focus on yourself, increasing your income, saving money, and then when you're able to do that, infinite banking can be a great fit. That's what I'll say.
Love it. So. Yeah, so the infinite banking concept is a great thing. If this resonates with you, I know one of the videos we did earlier in the week. I was talking about one of the newer clients that I've got that they're a business owner and they love learning about this, and they've had some challenges understanding which way to go. So as he says, do research. I would say look at multiple viewpoints. Find people that are pro IUL to talk about infinite banking.
Sure.
And do it with scrutiny. Really dig into it. Ask the questions on that. Go across the aisle. Find guys like us that are using, cash value whole life insurance, and really scrutinize that. Find multiple sources, cross-reference what's being said, the beliefs, the principles, because that's the only way you can arrive at truth, and the truth for you. Because there's going to be some of you that might resonate more with somebody that actually says something about IUL for infinite banking. It's possible you could do that, and that's okay. If you love what we're saying around whole life in the infinite banking concept, then that's the good fit for you. We want you to be empowered to where you understand this stuff at a deep enough level where you feel aligned to move forward in a way that you feel good about. And if it's with either one of us, great. We'd love to work with you and see if it's a good fit and really dig in and understand you and where you're trying to go and what you're trying to accomplish, and then see if we can design something that makes sense for you. So if that's you and you want to do that, either one of us, I'll put your link in this, and I'm sure you'll do reverse on yours. His channel is amazing, Millennial Wealth Creator. He's got tons of great content. He's getting into the real estate stuff like he's talked about already today. in real estate investing. There are great ways to do that. He's got a ton of stuff on that on his channel. And, you know, check out one of us. Whichever one you resonate with, you want to learn more, hit us up. Make sure you subscribe to both of our channels. Hit the notification bell so when we produce more content like this, you can continue your education on the things that we're doing. Hopefully we're a step or two ahead of you and the things that we're executing in our lives to help pass that forward and help you guys, you know, change the dynamic in your family. I know for me, we've never been in a wealthy family, and I'm going to change that, darn it.
Absolutely.
I don't want my kids to know what it's like to struggle. I mean, they do a little bit already just from their younger years, but that's a dynamic that I'm changing. And so, if, you know, you want to do that, hit us up and we can schedule a one-on-one session and go from there with it. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate it, and we'll look forward to talking in the next video. Take care.
Next time, guys.